Online remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from pro, college basketball, UFC, MMA, and more. You always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at Bet Online. With live betting options, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. Bet Online is truly the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite leagues and events. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and receive a 50% off welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure you use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your awards. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts, was a proud sponsor of the Bossman Show on your radio. Back on the Bossman Show, we're here with the new head coach at Houston Christian, the Huskies, Braxton Harris. Coach Harris, how things down there in Houston, man? Is the weather good down there, man, on the Gulf Coast there?
Hey, man, it's always great in Houston, Texas, man. I'm wearing short sleeves, and it's the 1st of February, so that's a win by me, man.
I hear that, man. I hear that for you, Coach. Let me ask you, man, how's it been, man, getting this job? What's it like to be in the community of Houston Christian community, all the alumni out there, those who support you guys? How's it been to do this far since you got this job, man?
Man, I tell you, I always tell people it's like drinking water out of a fire hose, man. Every day you come in here and you got something new to be able to take on, and you're trying to get it going. And, you know, there's so much things in college football, man, that have changed lately, right? With the transfer portal, with JUCO signing, with high school signing, all those things hit at the same time. And so you get the job December 10th is when I got this job, and you're right in the middle of it. You're behind because at that point, we had 11 days to sign a class for the initial signing period, you know, in about, you know, a month and a half for the February signing in this piece. And so on top of that, you got to get transfers in, you got to get them into school, you got to do all those things. And then the next thing you got to do is you got to figure out who your guys are, man. You know, you got to figure out who the guys in your locker room are. And then you got, like you said, you got to get out in the community. You got to get on campus, be able to meet some people, be able to talk to them, be able to kind of share your vision on how things are going to be able to go, and be able to go do those things. So, man, my family's still back in North Carolina, and I miss them like crazy, man. But I probably hadn't had much time to be home anyway, so it kind of worked out.
No doubt, man. People are right. This is about Coach Harris. Like in FCS football, scholarships are very much less than FBS. You have 63 scholarships. So it's not the same amount you're dealing with here, but you can split some off a little bit to get people covered. But you got to play the math of that as well, find the right fit, getting there late as you did. So I can only imagine the fans understand that you've had a whirlwind, but you're doing a good job. You're in great spirits. I see you. You're glad to be there. That's the main thing about it.
No doubt, man. Well, you know, that's the game, is that you got to be able to take one thing at a time. You know, man, there's a lot of people see the whole big picture and they say, we got to fix this, this, and this. And yes, you got to fix all those things. But man, you got to fix the thing in front of you, and you got to be able to answer those questions before you can move on to the next. And so, you know, I was a head coach previously. And so that's one of the things I kind of learned and took from my first time being a head football coach is you can't fix everything. Just try to get better at one thing, you know, and as coaches, we tell our players that all the time, but we don't want to think about it. You know what I mean? Well, he ain't talking to me, right? But the same things that are successful for our players, man, are the same things that's successful for us as coaches as well.
No doubt. Now, Coach Harris, I'm saying something, man. My father was a coach. I'm a coach's son, and my father talks about wanting to impact young men. So what got you into want to become a coach, getting this business, man? Because I see my father has some long nights, and I know he used to be a son of a coach. So how was that, man? What does that make you want to get involved in becoming a coach, man?
Man, my story is similar to yours. My dad's a high school football coach in Texas for over 30 some odd years. And I remember my dad coming home and watching film on our dining room wall because he had the projector film at the time that would crank. And I would sit there and watch film with dad. You know, we didn't know what we were watching. You know, I was a little kid, but man, I was watching it, you know. So if your dad's a coach, you can probably relate to that.
Yeah, 82 years old, man. So you're a little bit older than I am by a couple of years. But yeah, my father still had his little pads. We watch games now, Coach Harris. My dad's talking about inside zone, outside zone, split zone. I'm like, Dad, I'll see it. I watch what you watch, Dad. I'm good. I see it.
Hey man, once you're a coach, you're always a coach, right?
Yeah.
Shoot, but yeah, don't never change, right? And so, you know, for me, man, my story is similar to yours, man, is that, you know, I got to see the impact that my dad made and my mom made and us as a family. You know, my dad was a high school football coach in Texas for over 30 some odd years. And, you know, he would go pick kids up on Saturday morning to go take the SAT and ACT. You know, he'd drive them in his car to 7-on-7 to get them kids there that needed that to camps so they get opportunities to be recruited, FCA events that were at our house. And man, I just saw the impact that it made, and I saw how much fun my dad had loving on these kids, right, and making a difference in their life. And man, for me, I'll just be honest. I mean, this is all I've ever wanted to do, man. I am living my dream right here, and I get to do it every day. And so it is that influence. It is that difference, man. Is that, you know, it's not just about X's and O's, because at the end of the day, our guys are going to leave here. Majority of them are going to go pro on something else, right, besides football. And the difference that it is, it's these guys that played for me in the past. Like I did a reference on a kid getting into grad school yesterday in Georgetown. He's applying for graduate school in Georgetown. I mean, it's those relationships that matter. Those are the things that you take with you for the next 40. It's when your kids call you and say, Coach, I got my first job. Hey, Coach, I'm going to get married. Hey, Coach, we're having our first kid. All those things, like, that's life, man. And you can't, when I was 18 to 23 years old, man, people loved on me and invested in my life and made a difference in who I was. And so for me to get the opportunity to do that again through this game of football, man, it's like stealing without a gun, man. It's stealing without a gun around here. That's for sure.
No doubt, like you said, Coach. Like you said, man, like it's so fun because for me, you know, I was done in 08 playing football. You see, I got into the media game, but I can I talk to my coach on Sunday night for 2 hours. Just ask me about the Atlanta Hawks, what's going on, is how happy he was to see that I left the field and got into being in media. I'm doing this 15 years, man. And it's the best job before I can talk to guys like yourself, share stories, chop it up about sports, and I'm still near the game. Now I don't have any stress. I'm near the game, but I love it. So, it's a great thing, man.
Yeah, you got to figure it out, man. I need to learn from you.
Yeah, I'm trying my best, man. Let me ask you this, Braxton, man. So for you, what is the ideal Husky for your program? What are you looking for in a young man that you want to come into your culture and help build this? He's the Christian team in the Southern Conference up to what you want to be going forward, man.
Yeah, you know, the first thing is that we want guys that want to get a college education. I mean, first and foremost. I mean, we're talking about a private school education in Houston, Texas, the 4th largest city in the United States. Talking about all the resources that are within 10 miles of our campus, all the connections, all the possibilities, all the internships, they're all right here. We want somebody that can come to Houston, Texas and go, man, I want this opportunity. And they want the opportunity to be able to, they see it for what it is. Too many kids in our younger generations, they don't see them as opportunities. They just see them as, well, this is what I deserve, right? The reality is we want guys that are grateful for the opportunity. Just like me as a coach, man, I didn't deserve this job. I didn't work hard enough to get this job. Somebody had to give me this opportunity. And I want to make sure that I treated it as though somebody gave it to me, not that I earned it in some right. Because if it's a gift, man, I'm going to be appreciative of that. And so we want kids that come to this campus that see HCU as a university as a whole, and they can see what they can value. They see how they can be able to grow. But then we also want them to see that they can play in the Southland Conference, which is great Division I football that gets 2 teams in the playoffs most years, that they can compete at the highest level. But we want people that live a life of gratitude in those spots. And so the 2 things we talk about in our program, man, are we want guys that can be accountable, and we want guys that can be persistent. And then we want to do those two things, accountability and persistence, with an enthusiasm that nobody else has ever seen, because everybody does the same things. I mean, you've been around ball your whole life, right? Like, you ain't going to go to a practice and go, man, I ain't never seen anything like that. That's crazy, right? Like, I mean, we think we got these great ideas, right? Like, but at the end of the day, it's all been done, right? So it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it. And that's what we're trying to get our young men to be able to see. It's about doing the things that we're asking them to do, with being accountable to each other, to be accountable to the coaches being accountable to them, but then also being persistent that, hey, man, sometimes, Jack, it don't work out right. You still got to keep going. Like, just because it didn't work the first time doesn't mean it can't work the second or the third time. But you don't know that if you're not persistent to keep going in those spots. And then we want guys that are so excited about coming to work together with each other that, man, they've got a smile on their face walking around every day. The world, if people just smiled, man, just smiled, our world would be such a better place in that spot. And so we want to teach our young men that right here, right now.
It's funny because she says, well, my dad says, Braxton, he also talks about having a connected spirit on the field. His big thing was having a spirit that was connected on the field. If our spirit's connected on the field, we'll make plays. We'll get a fumble recovery. We'll get a tip ball. If our spirit is connected, it'll work out for us. That's my dad always used to preach every day, having that connected spirit daily. That was one of his messages to his team every day.
No doubt. Well, it's funny you say that. Like, you're putting a staff together, right, as a head coach, and you sit there and you go, okay, you must have talked to these guys that you're bringing in. You must have talked about their offensive scheme, their defensive scheme, their individual, like how their teaching progression is, all that stuff. Hey, man, I didn't talk to them one time about X's and O's. I wanted to be able to do exactly what you said with our coaching staff. I wanted to be able to connect to these guys. I want to figure out why they're coaching football. I want to figure out what they love, what they don't love. Because that connectivity, I'm with you, man. It ain't about scheme. It ain't about X's and O's. It's about the connectivity of your organization. And if you don't have it with coaches, they can't model that to players, right? And so teams that are not connected, we got to look at ourselves as coaches and say, how connected are we in this spot? And so, man, I couldn't agree more with the connectivity piece. And I think it starts higher than the players. It starts with the staff, is how you put together in that piece.
You got that right, man. The staff is everything. If you have a staff together, it does trickle down to the field. And that's because I know for sure my dad let some people go who he felt did not fit the spirit anymore of what they were trying to build. And he also said that you can't be afraid if the spirit's not right to cut them out of the tree, because you don't want to have that rotten root in your organization.
That's right. Well, and the thing is, too, is you look at it both ways. Like, you can't judge a book by its cover. I was fortunate enough to keep two guys as full-time coaches that I retained on the staff. And so you really got to be able to go in open and willing and be able to see that connectivity piece. Like you said, it's easy to say the cutout piece, right? But it's not as much. People don't talk about the being open and willing to hearing somebody out and hearing their heart and hearing their connective spirit. To be able to answer those questions too. So it kind of goes both ways. We always talk about it the other way, but I think the other piece is as big a part as anything. And those two guys that we got, I mean, freaking rock stars, man. Like, we are so lucky that they're here, and they've been a huge asset to me already.
Amen to them. That's just Braxton. Now you're in Houston, Texas, a great state you know very well. Great talent to pick from. So how happy are you knowing that you're in a state that's talent rich as Texas, to find young men who fits your culture to a T that can help build your program up every day to keep that state going good, man?
Man, we ain't got to go about 35 miles, man. If you drew a circle around our campus, you go 35 miles and drew a circle all the way around it, man, we'd have as much talent as we can. Now, the key is in Texas, and you know this, right? Like, everybody comes to Texas and recruits. So we've got to make sure we do a great job building relationships, so that these guys don't get picked off by some group of five out of state, that we can compete with them. And the way we compete with them is the relational aspect. And like it goes back to what you said, the connectivity piece. And so to your point, the connectivity piece, that carries over in all aspects of the program. It's not just players and coaches, it's the recruiting aspect too. And so we feel like we got an advantage because we're right here. And like you said, the talent is right here. And so our plan is we've got to design a recruiting campaign that keeps these kids here in the city and that keeps them on our campus so that we can connect with them starting in their junior year all the way through their senior year in the process.
No doubt, like you said, man, it is so crazy you say that, because in my recruiting process back in 03, 04, A lot of those guys who could be some of them who still working today, they come on my radio show. Like, but we built a relationship as a 17-year-old kid. It's all your radio show. They'll say, "Yeah, coach, I do." And all through the years, they come on my show and talk because they came into my home and shot my father, my mother straight, shot me straight. Now I made the choice. I made it because of my grades, coach. I ain't gonna lie to you. I wasn't the best student in the world, but grades forced me to go to an FCS school, which is good for me. But but just knowing that they shot me straight, they shot my parents straight. So now to have a show, that relationship we still had it. And then came on my show where I was building the show up back in 09, 010. So like you said, connectivity piece, building that bond early, building that rapport, having that oneness, man. It's all just full circle, man. It works itself all the universe works itself out if you do the right things, put the right energy into the world, it'll pay you back tenfold.
Ain't no doubt. And I can tell you 5, 10 different stories of guys that you think when you cross their path that, hey, this guy can help me in my career, this guy can't help me in my career, and then all of a sudden the things switch. And at the end of the day, man, I believe this, that the Bible tells you the truth, treat people right, treat people the way you want to be treated. And we talk about that here. We got standards here, man, and the standard is do what's right. And so if you don't know what it is, if you question whether it's right, then it's wrong, right? And so we talk about that simple. I think sometimes, man, we as adults, we complicate things, man. At the end of the day, do what's right. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And if you do that, man, you're gonna be pretty successful in this world.
Man, you got that right, man. And I'm asking you, man, like you said, the Southland Conference is a great conference. Talk about just seeing the depth in that league and how much talent it has from top to bottom. Because a lot of people don't realize, the sky does not lie. You have talent. The NFL will find you. A lot of talent is good in Southern Conference in the NFL. And talk about how the coaching, how the deep talent is in that conference, man. I love it watching the conference play for sure.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the things that excited me the most. Obviously, coming back home to Texas was a piece for me, but then also the Southland Conference. I grew up in Texas, and so you knew teams in the Southland, and you knew that they're making deep playoff runs. And, the thing with that, being in a good conference like that, it puts your goal is to win the conference championship. And so what you're doing is that you're comparing yourself with other really good teams. You're not comparing yourself to somebody that's not very good or doesn't have the commitment level. I mean, the Southland Conference is as committed as any conference in the nation to being successful in football. And so you look at the teams that are in it, you're comparing yourselves to Incarnate Words and Southeast Louisiana's and all these other people that are playoff teams. And that's what your comparison is. And so that's what our measuring stick is to be able to get better in that spot. But, you look at it, I think all 4 teams in Texas this year got new coaching staffs. And so the turnover here is going to be big. So the piece is who can handle the transition the best, right? Who can handle the transition from one staff to the other and not just survive, but really gain ground in this spot. And we believe one of the big pieces for us is our recruiting class. We're top 10 in the nation, the best recruiting class in FCS and high school recruiting class in the state of Texas. We think that foundation is laid that allows us to be able to go build in this conference.
What about this, Braxton, this player development, getting strong in the weight room, that film work, that working out on doing drill. What about how important this springtime and summertime is to get better and establish yourself and get ready for that grind that we know is coming for fall camp in August there?
Yeah, no doubt. And development's the key word, right? And that's kind of the hot button word, right? We like to throw words. Our society throws words around, right? And development is the word that everybody throws right now. And so understanding that development is not just one-folded, right? Like it's multifaceted development. And so here we want to develop the whole person in that spot, because I believe this, that if you look back in your life and I look back in mine, the times that I've performed at my highest, I was healthiest in all areas of my life, physically, spiritually, mentally in those spots, right? And so here we don't want to just focus on one aspect of it. It's like a stool, right? Like if you're short in one of those areas that's short in your life and your stool's wobbly, man, you can't sit on that. That's not a foundation. And so we've got to take time to invest in all 3 of those. We've got to take time to invest in them physically. We've got to take time to invest in them spiritually, because we are a Christian university, but that don't mean that everybody that comes here that believes that way. But you got to be able to show them Christ's love through the game of football and let them make the choices that they want to make in that spot. And then we've got to be able to help them mentally in that spot, because mental health's real. And in football, we got to make sure that we don't go back to times where it's not real. It doesn't happen. It does happen. And we need to be proactive. And the best way that we can be proactive in developing our athletes goes back to the word you talked about. We've got to be connected to our athletes to know that something's wrong or something's not firing on all cylinders, that we can be able to help them and get them to help. At HCU, man, we are so blessed to have so many resources. We have a director of player development here that's all he does, man. He just loves on our kids and he invests in our kids. So many people want to have all these, great X's and O football coach, right? But at the end of the day, man, we need people to invest in our kids' lives. And that's what we're able to do. But as far as the X's and O's, the football aspect, the development of players, man, our guys are in it right now, man. They're in the weight room. They're out running. We're doing team runs. We're developing this. And this is what we're really focused on. We're focusing on when things get hard, when things get tough, everybody has those moments. What are we going to do when those moments come? Who are we going to be when those moments come? Because everybody can do it in the first quarter and everybody can do it in spring ball because it all feels good, right? Like it all feels good. But when things go in the third quarter and you're tired and you're wore out and it's hot, because in Texas, man, it's going to get hot down here. And who's going to do it then in that spot? And so we don't want to wait till the September game time to figure that piece out. We want to know beforehand. And we want to take our kids there multiple times so we can teach them and grow them. And like you said, develop them how to handle those moments.
And you said something really key about mental health. I remember when I played in the 08, my senior year, man, my mother got diagnosed with cancer. I didn't tell anybody. Football was my release from dealing with that when I told nobody, man. I didn't want to look like I was weak. I didn't want to feel like I was a weak link or I wasn't fully committed. But nobody knew until I told them after the fact. But yeah, she had breast cancer. When I left school, I was dealing with my mother's situation. So we've come a long way now where coaches and players can actually be open about, hey, I'm having a personal issue now. Because my senior year, I did good considering all things. My mind was not really there. But it was my release away to think about my mom's health every day. So I feel like what you said is so important because I know that would have been good for me 15 years ago if I was a player on your team. But I needed that, but I didn't have it. I didn't want to look like I was the weak link. I wasn't fully committed as a senior.
Right. Well, and that's the piece. And like, don't think that we got it all figured out by any means, man, because there's going to be days that we're really good at that. And man, there'll be days that we ain't very good at all at that. Like we're so worried about X and O's that we don't check in with that dude that's trying to make that route work, right? But we want to have those opportunities. We want to try to do everything we can to be intentional in those. So intentional in having your door open as a coach, intentional is having kids in your office, intentional with shooting a group text, hey, where we at, all those pieces. But to me, those relationships and that connectivity, it seems to be the theme of the talk right now is connectivity. Is that it goes back to you got to be intentional in trying to have those connections.
No doubt. Let me ask you, I got a couple more for you, man. So what has been your favorite spot to eat so far since you've been at HCU, man?
Hey, man, let me tell you, I've been in North Carolina, and I love North Carolina, right? Like, it was gorgeous, beautiful, but, man, it ain't Texas, right? Like, it ain't Texas, man. And so I'm talking Tex-Mex, I'm talking barbecue, I'm talking beef barbecue, man. Like, I'm talking brisket barbecue. And, man, so I got to go with Tex-Mex. The other night we had recruits and we were taking Pappasitos for dinner. And my wife said, what are you doing? I said, we're going to Pappasitos for dinner. She goes, man, you're just suffering. You're just struggling there. Aren't you eating those fajitas? And I said, babe, somebody's got to do it. I'm just doing what the Lord's called me to do, right?
I hear that, man. So last one for you, brother. Who's been the coolest person you've heard from since you got this job for as you saying congrats on the job? And who's the coolest person to reach out to you so far?
Man, that's a tough question, man. It's crazy. When I got on the plane to come to Houston, I had 250 text messages to answer. I sat on the flight from North Carolina to Houston. I answered. I got it down to 150 text messages, man. And then when I landed and my phone got reconnected to the internet again, I had over 200 the next morning. And, it just goes to show you, man, just be thankful for what you have, right? Be thankful for the opportunities. I'm blessed that I got probably the coolest, to be honest with you, players that I coached in the past, for them to reach out, for them to care enough about keeping track of what's going on in my life and in my family's life to be able to care. If it wasn't for those guys believing in me many years ago, whether it's at Texas Lutheran University, whether it's at Howard Bain University, whether it's at Campbell University, and, those I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for those guys. That they believed in me and they gave me the opportunity to coach them. And so, those are the cool things, man, is that those people, they got nothing to gain, man. They ain't trying to do nothing, but it's just an authentic relationship. And man, you just can't beat that with the stick, man. That's good stuff right there.
Yeah, that's impact, man. That's why I come my goal here, Braxton, man, with this show over these last 2 years is to be a servant to you guys. Give y'all a platform without bias, without narrative. Hey, just come on the show, have a true conversation without like I'm asking you like bullet pointing. I'm asking you, we're having a talk, man. We're not having we're having a talk, man. So that's been my goal in 15 years, man. This radio show, man, to be a servant that way. Give you a platform where you don't have to worry about bias or narrative. Just come here and sell your program to people, and hopefully this show is national and global. It's Canada, Europe, it's a global show. It'll be heard everywhere, man. So there's no people will hear this and feel say, okay, HCU, I might want to go there and check those guys out there.
Hey, man, that's awesome, man. And like I said, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity. And, we just want to always make sure that we appreciate what God's given us, man. And in athletics, we always want more. We always want the next step. We're always moving to the next championship. We're moving to the next win. And we will have that mindset here for sure. But man, we're going to appreciate the things that God's given us. And we're going to make sure that we not only just say it, but we live it. And that's probably the hardest thing about being a head coach, man, is being thankful for what you got. And then also being able to push the envelope to move the program forward. So that's that balance piece, man. It's like sitting on that tightrope, man. You got to make it work.
No doubt. Well, you are Braxton. I'm here for you, man. Anytime you want to call the show, man, promote a game, I'm here for you. So I got affiliates in Texas as well. So, hey, man, I'm going to give a number offline. Here, so you have my number as well. So I'm looking forward to stay in contact with you, support you, man. So you got somebody in your corner. I'm definitely here in your corner, brother.
Hey, man, I appreciate you. We need as many dogs as we can, man.
You got that right, buddy. Hey, man, it was very fun, man.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
All right. BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from pro, college basketball, UFC, MMA, and more. You always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. With live betting options, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. BetOnline is truly the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite leagues and events. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to join and receive a 50% off welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure you use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive your awards. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts, was a proud sponsor of the Bossman Show on your radio.